Alright, I'm going to show you how to set up sampling grids for Phase I Archaeology. Um, Typically, we try to set up shovel test pits along transects. There's a couple of ways we can organize those. One way that I'm going to show you first is going to be to first draw a line tracing the outside edge wherever it makes sense, and then copying the line to create multiple transects. This is probably useful if it's not a reasonable north, south, east, west type of workspace or APE. When it is a good north, south, it's probably best to use the Fishnet method. I'll show you some pros and cons of both, but let's go ahead and start by creating some lines. So I've created a feature class. Let's see. Not in here, so we're going to go into it. Transects Phase I feature class. Add to the current map. We'll hit create, and we're going to create transects. So we're going to use the trace tool down here, and we'll just trace right along the top. And we've got the top boundary. We've got one transect. We would just kind of copy that transect over. I'm going to show you the result if we do that. Let's see. So the tool we would use is called Copy Parallel, right down here. That brings up the modify features to copy parallel. And since we're going from left to right here, we only want the ones to copy going down, not both. So we're going to copy only to the right. And when we do Phase I work for archaeology, it's in meters, 15-meter intervals. So this is done in one repetition. You can see there's multiple repetitions that we need to do to cover the whole workspace. So we're just going to keep inching that up. Let's see, until it covers the entire workspace. Alright, there we go. So now it's covered the entire workspace. Go ahead and hit copy. And now it's created all of those nice lines, right? I'm going to save it. And we're going to hit clear. It does some odd things at times. This one, you would think that it would be the exact same shape, but one thing you'll notice up here, we had this line, and when we copy parallel, it sort of keeps changing as you move. The line just kept adjusting. And that actually, although it's most evident where this little bump out was, it actually occurred all the way down anywhere there was a bend, because you're trying to put, sort of straight lines on a bent, curved surface of the Earth. So it necessarily needs to, in order to get it to fit, to do some adjustments. In this case, it's not too bad. This probably would work. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and clip these. We don't want all this area outside of the APE to be included. So what we're going to do is clip all of the lines based on the LOD. So we're going to use the clip function here. The input feature, so this is going to be what we use to do the clip. And we're going to just go to this and we'll select all. So that's the input feature that's going to be the target for the clipping. And then the target feature, so the thing you actually want clipped, we're going to select all the transects. And what this should do is clip all of the transects so that you don't see them where it enters the work area. So that this would discard the remainder, so it would discard the area that intersects. So everything in the APE would be deleted. So we're going to click Contain, which should delete everything outside of the area. You could also hit Split and then manually delete lines. But we're just going to do this. We're going to say Clip. And that got rid of all of the sections of line that we did not want. But you can see it also did some funkiness here with these transects. These were just a reflection of the parallel issue, I think. But it looks like some of the lines may have bent a little bit. But in general, this looks really good. We'll save that. We do have a name field, and we also know that that very first line, we don't need it. We don't need any points that are going to really be outside or covering area outside of our LOD. The 15 meter, this interval here will cover all the way to the LOD with the exception of this bump out here. So we're going to delete that very first line, and then we are going to create one more line just to cover what's in that bump out area. So I just kind of drew it in there roughly. We need to make sure that it covers the 15 meters. So I'm going to put finish, clear. There we go, metric. Let's see, it looks like that's the farthest out, so it looks like we have to bend it a little bit. There we go. Edit vertices. Save. Alright, that's almost exactly 15 meters right there. We have 12.9 there, so 13. We could even kind of pull this down a little bit, but it really should cover everything as far as our 15 meter interval goes. Alright, so that very first one is going to be A. Since we use alphanumeric numbering, so that would be the first transect. And we're going to name the rest of these B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, O, P, Q, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now that we got past the Z, and we still have like 10 more transects, we're going to do double letters. And then that gets us back to our last one. Okay, so now we have the transect set up. We want to save that. And we're going to do points along the transect. So first we have to create an STP feature class. So we're going to go into our catalog here, new feature class, and just to know that there is a difference between phase 1 and phase 2. Well, this doesn't actually need to have the underscores. This one does. And this is going to be a point. And we should have transect. which will be a short. Actually, it needs to be a text. And this will be a STP number. And it will be a short. So we'll have Transect and STP. So it would be like A1, A2, etc. You could keep it in WebMarcator. Auxiliary sphere might be easier just for the purposes of, since this is in metric meters. My map though is in state plane. In this case, Virginia North. I'm going to say we're going to use that, which actually goes along with nav the 88 height. All right, and now we can create points along each line. So we can first select the line. There we go. We have the line selected. Go to Edit, Create. We're going to create STP points. We know that this is Transect A. And we can say that we want to pick one just because this one will be manual. We put one right in the midpoint. That should work. All right. Now we'll do points along the line for the Transect B. We're not going to include any STP number. We don't want any at the start or end, and we're not going to select a number of points, but we are going to do meters. And we don't want number of points, we want equal distance from the start. We don't want any additional, but we want 15 meters. And I don't know if this one, by selecting the line length in meters, I'm not sure if this will put them at 15 meter intervals or 15 feet. Given our coordinate system is in feet, we'll see how this works out. Let's go ahead and measure. All right, so it did put it in meters. So every 15 meters, that created a point along a line. So along that whole transect, we now have all of our points. When we look at the interval here, every one of these will have to be named separately. So you're going to have B1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I think you can calculate just based on the selection. So we're going to try that. All right, and we're going to be filling out the STP one. And there are helpers here. I think that there is an increment. Actually, it's probably a function. Sequential number. So STP will equal sequential number. And let's see. If we do that, if it includes the A as separate, or if it's only going to do what's selected. We'll try. Apply. Okay, yeah, it started with 1 for only the selection. So this function only applied to that selection. So we can hit now OK. And now we're going to go ahead and clear. And we're going to do it again. We're going to hit save for now. And then we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to go to, first we're going to go back and create this and our transect now is going to be C. We're going to again leave STP null, and we're going to select create points along the line. We're going to select our line, and we want at equal distance, we're going to put in meters, and the distance is going to be 15 meters. And we're going to be going from the start from here over, and we'll hit create. Okay. Again, you can see now in the attribute table we need to recalculate, and we only want to do it for the new ones, so we're going to go ahead and hit calculate. And it seems that the STP field sequential number is already selected. We're just going to go ahead and hit OK. And everything worked great. We're going to hit clear, and we'll do it again. We're going to do this, and now we're going to be on Transect D. Points along the line. Select the line. Equal distance. Measuring in meters. 15 meters. And create. And for the numbering, I'm going to calculate. It's already got the sequential number. Apply. OK. And clear. And we can save that too. And so on and so forth. There's a couple of things to keep in mind when you're doing this. So I've already been filling this out for a little while, and I've noticed a couple things. The point, when you come across these narrow, like separated areas, sometimes the point doesn't fall just based on the measurement. There's not 15 meters of width here, so no point was placed. In those cases, you'll probably have to manually create a point when you get done. Another thing, when you're doing this, you might want to, every once in a while, stop, because I'm going through alphabetically and manually typing in which transect these points are on. You might make a mistake. So, like the last one, if I look through this, I'm on, let's see, LMNOP. So if I select that point, this is on Transect P, it should be the LOD. Alright, so that's P for the STP. Let's see if we can click on that line. The line is also P, so I'm still consistent. Transects versus points. So just keep in mind, double check, make sure your points that you're typing in transects for are consistent with the actual transects. Alright, so that took, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, and I've got all of my points created. You can see in my attribute table, they are all with transects and STP numbers, so they're alphanumeric. I'm going to show you some of the things that we could maybe change and why we should change them. So using those transects, you can see that the linear portions of the site, had these little sections of transect, of individual transects, which in some cases you can see on this transect it ended up with 3 points. This one ended up with 2. This one ended up with none. And some of these are, this point technically does cover the LOD for the most part, but maybe, it's right at the edge of the LOD, of the APE, I guess. And so it would probably make more sense for this point to actually be right in here. And you can move them manually, but, what probably makes more sense is that when you're creating your transects, instead of these little linear, where you have these linear narrow corridors, you probably want to clip your transects and then create a separate transect manually that just goes right down the middle. And so we're going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete like all of these points. But before I do that, let's look at how many points we have in the table. All right, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. All right, so 1,061 points. Well, yes, 1,061 records. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to delete all of these. That's the best way. We'll use the clip tool. We'll try to do that. And we will select all. Well, first we'll select for the input feature, which is going to be what we clip using. We're going to select all. For the target features, we are going to select all transects. And this might give us an error, we'll see, but I'm going to first go with split, which will preserve both areas. The idea being that hopefully then these become separate line segments. It might give us an error. Alright, it seems like it worked. Let's find out. First we're going to clear, and then we're going to see if we can select just individual line segments. Nope, it's selecting the entire line still. So now the clip tool won't work, neither the clip nor the split. And the reason is because the line ends at the same point where you would be splitting it. So it causes an error in any one of those tools. So instead, I think we have to edit vertices, and we're going to use the minus, and we're going to delete each of these vertices, which will get rid of that line segment. So I think that's how we have to do it. The clip tool just won't work at this point, but editing vertices does work. All right. All right. And so now we actually have all of those points as well that we can go ahead and delete. And so the way I'm going to do that, first I'm going to make this the only selectable layer. And I'm just going to go through highlight and hold shift to get more. And the goal being, I'm going to hold control and unclick that one. I'm going to include that one in my area and go back to shift. So note we would have had to add a couple up here, but we were at 161 before, or 1061, sorry. So we're going to go ahead and delete these. Yes. All right. Let's see where we are now. Now we're at 1007. All right. Now we're going to create a couple of other transects. And the transects, instead of it being A, B, C, D, in this case, we could actually call it linear 1 or 0, 1 if you have, that way you can have 100 lines. We'll call that the transect, linear 1. I'm going to use the trace tool, and I'm going to go along this edge. We'll stop there. You can see this has some bends, but I think it's going to get simplified if I use the copy tool. And one of the things I want to make sure is that I have full coverage. Okay, for 1 we want this to be 1. And we went down, and so we want it to only be to the left since we're going down. Okay, so it looks like we will have full coverage if we just put this right in the smack in the middle. I guess we could have measured it, but it looks like 15 meters is going to be here, so we don't need 2 points here because one right down the middle will cover both sides. So what I'm going to just do is move this one about to the middle, and then I'm going to edit some vertices. We don't need them all. I'm just going to take out those so we don't have that crazy bend. I'm going to move this one closer to the middle. Move this one slightly closer to the middle. This one's probably good where it is. Alright. And this one I'm going to just kind of extend a little bit. And maybe this one push over just slightly. Alright. Alright, that actually kind of looks pretty good. I'm going to measure kind of at the widest point and see. Yep, that's still 15. So we didn't lose our coverage. We're about 14.5 meters. So even at the widest point, we have full coverage. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing, except for now I'm going to create a linear 2. We're going to go here. We're going to go to the middle there. We already have a point there. I'm going to make sure we connect to this point here. And then I'm just going to continue on and end at that STP. And now I'm going to do a linear 3. Which will be somewhere right in here, probably starting. That should have plenty of coverage. And to make sure we are 15 meters from that, which we might have to edit that vertex, but for the most part I think we're going to have full coverage here. Okay, and just to double check, let's measure. We'll save that and measure from here down to this line. Oh, it's a little bit too far away, so we're just going to push that down a little bit. That probably gets us where we need to be. Oh yeah, plenty, exactly, good coverage there. And it probably has plenty of coverage up here. We do need to make sure that we get a point there though. So we might have to manually squidge the point to make sure it covers that. But I think now we have all of our transects, our linear transects. And we'll do the same thing that we did before. We'll create points along a line every 15 meters. go to Edit, Create, and let's see, we're on linear 3. So as far as these, we want to make sure we say linear 03. Don't put in any STP. Got measured units, we're going to do meters and 15. Create. Alright, so now every 15 meters it created a point. We do need to make sure that we actually have one at the start and end. So I'm going to Control Z that. And we're going to select that line again. Well, we have it set up, so we need to make selectable. We'll make this selectable. Alright, and here, and we want one at the start and end, since we kind of stopped 15 meters from. So we're just going to say create there. Alright, there we go. So we do have, these points are all very close. I think it's probably going to be 15 meters. If we need to, we can squidge this point just a little bit south. But let's measure that. Okay, we're at 16 meters, so we're about a meter off. It's probably good enough. We can probably even squidge these other ones, but we can, let's move. Well, first, actually, let's calculate. Let's go into this, look at the attribute table, and number all of our points. And make sure it's set for STP. Okay. So that should name our linear 3 STPs. We have 35. Now we're going to hit clear, and I'm going to select only that one. Yep. I'm going to move it. I'm just going to move it to about there. Maybe a little bit further, because we know this is 1 meter. Okay. All right, exactly 15 there. And what do we get? We're about 15.3 there. We're really close. I think I'm going to call that good enough. And I'm going to guess we should be at least, yeah, we've got another meter there. So we could probably move this one just a little bit to the left to make up that third of a meter, but I think we're good. All right, and now let's go ahead and do the others. So here, this one, if we recall, is linear 2. And make this one selectable. And we do need to have points at the start, but in this case, I guess we don't need it at the end, so I'm going to unclick that because we know we have an STP right at the end. create those. We'll apply the sequential numbers. And if you wanted to too, you could make these linear A or linear B if you wanted to use that instead of linear 1, 2, 3. Just to be consistent with using letters for transects. Let's see. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing for linear 1. Do you need a point at the start? Probably. Do you need a point at the end? Depends. We'll include it, and if we have to, we'll delete it. Meters, distance 15. If you have two really bunched up at the end, we'll delete one. Let's see what that gets us. No, it actually ends up almost perfect. So I don't want to delete one at the end, we'll just keep that one in. Although it might be good enough. Depends if that point is within 15 meters. Let's measure that. Oh, it is. So we can actually delete that point. But let's go ahead and first number. We know that one's good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and calculate the STP. Okay. And then we're going to clear. And then we're going to delete that one because we don't need it. Okay, so now we've kind of done everything we can do here. We've got good coverage. We've adjusted for all of the linear areas. And let's see how that worked out. So in the end, that added, it looks like we had 1,061. We added about 9 to get full coverage. You can recall we had other areas where there was missing ones. We would have had to add them in. This just ends up being a more efficient means of coverage, and when you're in the field, it makes more sense to just kind of follow the middle of a road or whatever your linear corridor when you're doing that type of survey. So that's how we can set it up with using transects, using lines. There's other ways that we could do it. I'm going to show you with this one. Another way is to use a fishnet. So edit, save. I'm going to make a separate video for the fishnet, and just so the videos don't get too long.